After the assassination of Franz Ferdinand in June 1914, a full-scale war began in Europe, in which the largest states of the continent were drawn into. During the first year of the Great War, the countries of the Central Powers failed to achieve serious success at the front. By the beginning of 1915, the German Empire on the Western Front had only managed to occupy the eastern part of Belgium and occupy the Duchy of Luxembourg. The only direction where the troops of the Central Powers managed to achieve relative success was the Eastern Front, where joint Austro-German troops managed to stop the offensive of Russian imperial army and launch a counteroffensive, significantly advancing into Poland, occupying cities such as Plock and Kalisz, coming close to Warsaw. However, despite the offensive of German troops, the Russian army managed to break through the Austrian defenses and occupy Krakow. At the same time, the Austrian army failed to achieve any success on the front with Serbia. The troops of Austria-Hungary constantly attacked the Serbian positions, which greatly exhausted the Austrian group of troops, which could have caused the start of a Serbian counteroffensive. The Ottoman Empire, which entered the war on the side of the Central Powers, despite all its efforts, was unable to break through the defenses in Bulgaria and the Caucasus. And after a series of unsuccessful attacks, the Russians launched a counteroffensive on the Ottoman border, taking control of the large city of Erzurum. The fighting took place not only in Europe, but also in Africa, where Entente troops managed to completely knock out German divisions from the continent in 6 months, occupying all the colonies of Berlin. Also, thanks to successful diplomacy, at the beginning of 1915, Rome and Bucharest entered the war on the side of Entente, which forced the Austrians to send some troops to the front with Italy and Romania. And what awaits the world in 1915? We will find out this right now. And before we start, I would like to say thank you to everyone who liked this video and subscribed to my channel. Well, now let's begin. After Romania and Italy entered the war on the side of the Entente, the balance of power in the conflict changed significantly. Vienna, having received 2 more fronts in the Alps and Carpathians, was forced to withdraw part of its troops from the border with Serbia, which opened up the opportunity for Belgrade to launch a large-scale offensive. In addition, during the year of endless attempts to break through the Serbian defenses, the Austrian troops were exhausted and were not able to organizedly resist the forces of the kingdom in some sectors of the front. At the end of May, almost immediately after Italy's entry into the Great War, the Serbian offensive that would change the course of the conflict began. The Serbian divisions, repelling another attack by the Austrians, suddenly launched the counteroffensive in Bosnia. The main goal of the spring-summer campaign was to capture the city of Sarajevo, where the Great War has started. The capture of Sarajevo will significantly weaken the group of Austro-Hungarian troops in the Balkans and will allow the Serbs to gain a foothold on the western bank of the Drina River, which will allow them to develop an offensive deep into the territories of Bosnia and Croatia. On June 5, 1915, Serbian troops crossed the Drina River and entered the city, where they were greeted as liberators. But this extremely joyful event was overshadowed by news from the Eastern Front. German troops, after several months of brutal battles, managed to break through the defenses of the Russian Imperial Army and occupy Warsaw. The fall of Warsaw will allow the Austro-German troops to gain a foothold on the left bank of the Vistula and drive out the remnants of the Russian troops from Lodz and Krakow. Returning to the situation in the Balkans, after all attempts by the Austrian army to regain control of Sarajevo failed, and Serbian troops managed to gain a foothold in the city and its neighborhood, the Serbian General Staff developed a new offensive plan, the main goal of which was the access of Serbian military units to the Adriatic coast. This would make it possible to secure the territory of the capital of Montenegro from constant attempts to storm it, as well as to encircle several Austrian divisions. After a month of brutal battles on the outskirts of the city, Serbian troops entered the city of Moscow on August 3rd. After the capture of the city, the Serbian army was separated from the Adriatic coast by less than 100 kilometers. And after strengthening the positions near the city, the royal units continued their offensive. And already on September 7th, Serbian troops reached the Adriatic coast, encircling 2 Austrian divisions. Meanwhile, the Romanian army was unable to hold back the onslaught of Austrian troops and allowed the enemy to break through on the southern sector of the front and lose the city of Craiova. The Austrian breakthrough in Romania threatened Belgrade with the opening of another front in Bulgaria, but the rapid supply of troops stopped the enemy advances and strengthened vulnerable sections of the front. At the same time, the Italians managed to completely dislodge Austrian troops from southern Tyrol and begin an offensive deep into the territories of the Balkan Peninsula. On October 19, 1915, Germany declared war on Portugal after Lisbon, at the request of Great Britain, seized German ships in the ports of Portuguese East Africa. The entry of Lisbon into the war further worsened the position of the Central Powers in the conflict, since Portugal had an impressive fleet which, after entering the war, joined the naval blockade of Germany. At the end of October, Serbian troops managed to finally destroy the encirclement of the Adriatic coast and free up forces to launch a new offensive in the north of the country, which began with the capture of the city of Sremska Mitrovica and its neighborhood by the Serbs. The capture of the city made it possible to significantly push the forces of Austria-Hungary away from Belgrade, securing the city. In the south, Serbian troops managed to advance along the Adriatic coast for about 30 kilometers, while encircling 2 more enemy divisions. Meanwhile, the Italians managed to collapse the front and take cities such as Trieste, Ljubljana and Zagreb, and also came close to Graz. Already at the end of December, Serbian and Italian troops met on the western bank of the Danube, completely surrounding the Austrian group of troops in the Balkans. Meanwhile, the French, together with the troops of Belgium and Great Britain, managed to completely liberate the territory of Belgium and begin an offensive deep into the western territories of Germany. Already at the beginning of 1916, the Italians came close to Vienna, and French troops were able to establish almost complete control over the territories of Bavaria, surrounding Munich. It was obvious to everyone that very soon the war would end. On March 18th, the German Kaiser Wilhelm II signed an agreement of the surrender of Germany. Similar documents were signed by the leaders of Austria-Hungary and the Ottoman Empire. The Great War, which lasted a year and a half and claimed the lives of the millions of people, has finally ended. And very soon the fate of the post-war world will be decided in the conference in French Versailles. As a result of the peace conference, a state was formed on the territory of Slovenia, Bosnia and Croatia, completely controlled by Belgrade. Serbia, in addition to control over the newly formed state, acquired new territories in western Banat and Vojvodina. Following the Great War, Italy acquired territories in South Tyrol, Istria, the southwest of Asia Minor, as well as in Dalmatia, which became the cause of the territorial dispute between Rome and Belgrade. Serbia demanded complete control over the territories of the Balkan Peninsula, inhabited by the Slavs, but the great powers did not satisfy Belgrade's demand at the peace conference. As for the fate of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, after the signing of the Treaty of Trianon, several states were formed on the territory of the former empire: Austria, Hungary and Czechoslovakia. Romania, which made a significant contribution to the victory over Vienna, received huge territories in Banat and Transylvania. An alliance called the Little Entente was formed between Serbia, Romania and Czechoslovakia. The main goal of the alliance was to counter Austrian and Hungarian revanchism, as well as maintain peace and stability in the region. The Ottoman Empire also ceased to exist. The territories of the empire were divided between Russia, Italy, France and Great Britain. As a result of the Great War, Fraternal Russia acquired extensive territories in Baltic, Poland, Western Ukraine and Asia Minor. In addition, St. Petersburg established control over the Bosporus and Dardanelles Straits, achieved access to the Mediterranean Sea. The most severe consequences awaited Germany, which, following the Treaty of Versailles, was divided into several states controlled by the victorious countries. Prussia and Saxony came under Russian control. The Rhineland Confederation and Württemberg came under French control, and the territories of Northwest Germany came under British control, and only Bavaria received complete independence. In addition, Alsace-Lorraine as well as the Saarland became part of France. Belgium gained control of Eupen. Denmark regained the territory of South Jutland, lost in the 1864 war. All colonies of the German Empire were divided between France, Belgium, Portugal and Great Britain, while the entire German fleet was sunk. After territories of Bosnia, Croatia and Slovenia came under the control of Belgrade, the country's leadership could implement their plans to create a unified Slavic state in the Balkans. On September 28, 1916, the Kingdom of Yugoslavia was formed, which included the territories of Serbia, Montenegro, Bosnia, Croatia, Macedonia, Slovenia and Bulgaria. The new state will become the most important actor in regional politics, and very soon will be forced to once again enter into another conflict over the redistribution of territories in the Balkans. And what awaits Serbia in the future, you will find out in the next video. Like and subscribe to the channel for more interesting HOI4 videos. Have a nice day, see you soon guys.